Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster my good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Monday, 22nd of April 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news from the Isle of Man. And background to that news, we've got sport and business and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, the Villiers Square gets the go-ahead. Hospitality industry refuses to accept government disregard. CCTV may stop vaping in schools. Government can have the nuisance building for free, says the owner. And the Ravens produced a stunning comeback at the weekend.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster my Siobhan Fletcher.
Faster my. An incident which grounded several flights at Ronaldsway Airport last week is being investigated by the UK's Air Accident Investigation Branch. On Friday afternoon, a light aircraft lost its undercarriage and was forced to land on the grass of the main runway. Plans to redevelop Villiers Square in Douglas have been fully endorsed. The chair of the planning committee has confirmed to Manx Radio that the multi-million-pound proposals have been unanimously approved. The Department for Enterprise has welcomed the decision. You can find their full response at our website. The power limitation currently imposed on the Ben McCree needs to be recalculated because the wrong data was previously used. The vessel has had to be restricted to 48% of its engine power in order to meet energy efficiency requirements. Further afield, MPs have again begun voting on the Rwanda asylum bill, hours after Rishi Sunak announced planes wouldn't be taking off this spring as planned. The UK Prime Minister has vowed Parliament will sit late into the night to get the legislation approved. Donald Trump's historic hush money trial has begun, with prosecutors claiming the former US president orchestrated a criminal scheme to boost his chances in the 2016 presidential election. He denies covering up payments made to bury stories about an alleged affair, which he thought might hurt his campaign. And Hugh Edwards has resigned from the BBC months after stepping back from TV when allegations about his private life emerged. The corporation says the decision's based on medical advice. They're your headlines. News at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Garamaya, thank you, Siobhan, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. We've got a strong wind warning in the North Irish Sea. It is diminishing, but still there. State of sea slight to moderate and slight overnight. And the weather, dry in a moderate to fresh northwesterly, veering northeasterly through the night, minimum 7 degrees. For Jamaica, Tuesday, dry with patchy cloud at first, then sunny in a light variable breeze. Daylight maximum 12 degrees. A dry, breezy evening for Tuesday, down to 6 through the night into Jacrane. Wednesday's dry with sunny intervals in a light to moderate north or northeasterly. Highest temperature 11 degrees. The tide's just about out, low water in some 25 minutes time. Sunset 25 to 9, high tide a minute after midnight. Sunrise tomorrow morning 3 minutes before 6, low water 13 minutes past 6.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Everything's fine at Ronaldsway Airport and both boats are where they should be currently. Plans to redevelop Villiers Square in Douglas have been fully endorsed. The chair of the planning committee has confirmed to Manx Radio that the multi-million-pound proposals have been approved, a move welcome by the Department for Enterprise. The story with Amy Griffiths.
The old hotel was demolished and has been empty ever since, apart from the odd Christmas market or outdoor concert. The proposed plans involve constructing 2 buildings on the site. The first would have a mixture of retail and office space, including a gym and an underground car park, while the second would be a 6-storey hotel with capacity for 80 beds. The scheme had been recommended for approval by planning officers because they are said to have a positive impact upon the area and benefit the local economy. It's also had conditional support from a number of public bodies. The Department for Enterprise said the plans would develop on a number of goals of government's Island Plan and therefore supports the plan. Meanwhile, Visit Isle of Man says it was fully supportive of the scheme because of the need for hotel hotel accommodation on the island after a continued loss over the last 10 years. At today's meeting, the Planning Committee unanimously approved the development.
Members of the hospitality sector say they refuse to tolerate the government's disregard for their businesses after a call to arms meeting last week. A government spokesperson said it's committed to supporting the sector, but solutions need to be appropriate and take account of the pressures being felt across the community as a whole. Carl Jochen is landlord of the Mitre Hotel in Ramsey.
We're still paying off COVID and everything that's happened since. It has been very difficult to turn over into profit due to increasing overheads and staff difficulties and just the change in the way that people use the pub, especially with the economic situation over the last couple of years. Obviously, the increased energy costs has been a massive factor. It's also Brexit has played a part. It's very difficult now to recruit people to work in the industry. For example, my chef went on maternity leave in August and I wasn't able to recruit her with somebody that was suitable for the role. And then obviously with understanding that it was going to be a very difficult winter, I decided to not open the kitchen for 6 months until my chef has come back from maternity leave. And we've decided to operate on Friday, Saturday and Sunday lunches only, because that's where it would be a bit more profitable and worthwhile to have the kitchen running with the operating costs and with the footfall that would be coming through the business. We're not after support for just individuals. We're looking for support across the industry. And it is the government's job to come up with policies that support the economy and support the industry. And they have to listen to the concerns of the industry. We're not talking about small business that are just failing. They're operating and struggling because of the policies that the government have in place and because of the current economic climate. Because without the industry, we will not have any tourist trade. We will not have jobs for young people to work. And it'll be a sad state of affairs when people will only be able to go to Tesco's and McDonald's.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
Faster Bites, 22 minutes now before 6 this Monday evening, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man. FC Isle of Man produced a stunning comeback, recovering from 2 goals down to beat AFC Liverpool 3-2 in the NWCFL Premier Division on Saturday. A great result for the Ravens as they head towards the final game of the season. His boss, Paul Jones.
Starting to get a group that really trusts, that really believes in each other, that understands the qualities that they each have and are happy to make sure that they allow others to play to their best and maybe less about themselves and them shining. They're happy to make sure that other people do and they're celebrating each other's successes far more than they were. So yeah, it's a really positive sign.
Last game of the season, next Saturday here at home against Lower Breg. What would you think would be the best way to sign off the season in that game next week?
Obviously a win, and I think we go above them in the table, don't we, if we beat them based on because they won today. So I think we need to beat them, or maybe we can't quite, but we need to win. But we also need to play well and have a really positive energy about us, and hopefully a large crowd comes down and can kind of be really vocal and loud in their support of the players. It's been a really tough shift, 46 games at this level of football for us on the island, and then on the back of that, the last 2 weeks have been incredibly tough for everybody. So it'd be fantastic for the players to put in a good performance, to end the season with a win, but really just to celebrate what's been achieved for our island and having the club in existence and just having a good time. Hopefully everyone enjoys the occasion.
There's the possibility some people on the Isle of Man will be deprived of bank accounts because of what's called de-banking. It's said to affect those who are deemed to pose a risk to the bank. The story from John Moss.
It's claimed when customers find their bank accounts terminated due, it's claimed, to their personal or political beliefs. Is that in fact happening? A local campaign group through their website say multiple Manx residents have suffered this. How many, they don't specify, but the Manx Taxpayers Alliance refer to multiple people who have not even been told, they say, why their bank was cancelling their services. They argue that banking services are essential for normal economic life. They, the Alliance, say it wants an upgraded system of protection for Manx customers so that they enjoy at least the same level of protection that the British government is proposing. Now, the UK government government has recognised there may be a problem here. In October last year, they said a public consultation would get underway before legislation next year, that's now this year, as part of the UK government's aim, quote, to put an end to debanking for freedom of speech reasons. They want to be able to take firm action if any bank fails to protect the rights of their customers. It follows reports that highlight situations where banks have been closing the bank accounts of customers based on their political views. Can a bank just stop providing its services without even saying so? There are reasons why this can happen, apparently, including if you haven't used your account for months or years, repeated unauthorised overdrafts, etc., etc. What the Taxpayers Alliance is demanding that the services shouldn't be taken away for, quote, arbitrary and unreviewable reasons. It points out that Isle of Man banks are typically part of groups with significant operations in the UK. Just upgrade Manx rules, they say. If the UK is bringing in rules regarding this, and as pointed out, Manx banks are usually part of groups with significant operations in the UK, then it's possible, of course, what applies there would apply to their Manx presence. Then again, it might need local reinforcement.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
The owners of the former nuisance building on Douglas, North Kiev, offered the site to government free of charge. Kelman recently announced it was giving up on the redevelopment plans, citing a 5-year battle with planners. The Environment, Food and Agriculture Minister Claire Barber, MHK, says a balance needs to be struck.
In terms of protecting heritage buildings, but also allowing development to happen. And it's interesting because there are equally a significant number of people who've been frustrated when we haven't protected heritage buildings. So it's not a case that a planning approval cannot be achieved on this site. It was that the specific approval which requested to demolish a registered building was not acceptable. I think that balance would be around bringing a development forward that allowed us to retain those, but also to redevelop around that. And interestingly, of course, there would be the ability to apply towards the Island Infrastructure Scheme if that it was felt that the ability to do that was then detrimental to the overall viability of the site. So I don't believe that there was an application to the Island Infrastructure Scheme in this regard, but if there was a future round of that scheme, certainly this would be, to my understanding, eligible.
If properties like nuisance are so important, does there need to be further legislation to make sure buildings like it aren't allowed to fall into the state that they're in?
That's an area where we need to reflect on how well we've enforced repairs, and I think that I acknowledge that in some circumstances we haven't enforced them as rigidly as perhaps we could. I know that when these buildings were purchased, they were in a reasonably good state of repair. They've obviously been allowed to fall into a state of disrepair, and a repairs notice has been served. At the moment, that has not been progressed, predominantly because there was the active planning application and appeal, and the department had been working with the developers.
Kelman has offered to donate the building to the government free of charge if they can develop it. Will you be taking them up on that offer?
So I don't personally feel it's appropriate for the government to just take a building free of charge. I think there's a process in place, and that will be the process that I would expect us now to follow.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes before 6 in corporate news, Marks & Spencer was among the biggest risers after RBC said the stock is its top pick for the sector, given it should be able to deliver moderate growth driven by structural improvements in food and women's wear. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Tesla's cut its prices again in a number of major markets, including the United States, China and Germany, as it faces falling sales. The move comes after it reported a sharp fall in global vehicle deliveries in the first 3 months of this year. A price war has been intensifying between electric vehicle makers, with fierce competition coming from the Chinese companies. Tesla's due to report financial results for the first quarter of 2024 after the US market closes tomorrow. In China, the firm cut the starting price of the revamped Model 3 in China by 14,000 yuan. That's about £1,500. Prices of Model Y, Model X and Model S vehicles in the US were reduced by $2,000, some £1,600. On Friday, there were corresponding price cuts in Europe, the Middle East and Africa, according to Reuters.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
A big day today, very big day today. The FTSE 100 has ended a long wait to achieve a new record high. UK and European markets started the new trading week on a positive note. US stocks attempted to rebound rebound from their worst week of the year. Oil fell initially, dragged down by a renewed focus on market fundamentals, and gold dropped more than 2% to a one-week low. Here's the important number then. Ramsey Crookall reporting at the close in London, a record high. The FTSE 100 up just over 1 6/10% at 8,023. The DAX in Frankfurt up just over 0.6%, 17,851. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.1%, 38,023. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up just over 0.25% at 15,323. The S&P 500 up nearly 0.3% at 4,980. But of course, the trading day continues. In the exchange markets, the UK sterling, the pound sterling, trading at $1 23.3 cents, €1 15.8 cents, and 23 South African rand 63 cents. In commodities, gold's down 2 3/10%, $2,335 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up nearly 0.5% at $87 on the nose.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Education Department's looking for the cash that will enable it to actively look at having CCTV, closed-circuit television, in appropriate areas in schools. What about checking on vaping? Both of these subjects answered by the Minister of just 2 months, Daphne Kane, MHK, and her Chief Exec, Graham Kinraid.
I'll just ask a quick question around the toilet vandalism issue, because it's been quite a live issue in the press recently, and whether the department's considered alternative approaches. And whilst it sounds rather intrusive talking about CCTV, to put CCTV in appropriate areas naturally, has that been considered, and do you think that could bring about a more positive outcome?
Yes, that is something we are actively looking at. In fact, the department is looking to enhance the CCTV across all school sites in terms of security of the perimeter, as well as live CCTV monitored of specific areas for exactly that reason. And that is something we will be looking to secure funding for quite soon.
Just if I could just expand one question off from that is, are the department looking at vaping alarms like they are in the UK?
No, we're not currently looking at vaping alarms. We consider vaping the same as smoking. So within school policies, they're not permitted on the premises. So they have to be confiscated as and when found. Vaping alarms are used in some UK schools, but equally have some issues with false alarms and a lot of time spent with staff going when it's not required to go. So at the moment we're not looking at putting vaping alarms in specifically, we're looking at dealing with it more generally under the same policy that we would implement for smoking.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates. Manx Radio Sport.
Mastermind John Moss.
Good evening. Mark Cavendish, along with Stage 1 winner Fabio Jakobsen and a number of other sprinters, finished off the front at the finish of Stage 2 of the Tour of Turkey this afternoon. The stage gave Mark's Astana teammate, Max Kanter, his first pro win. Cav had fallen behind on the major climb of the stage with 60 kilometres to go. In the island, in the James Berry Tour of the Middle cycling event yesterday round St Mark's, the win went to Max Walker from Ivan Sorby, Owen Collins and Simon Harding, then Rob Sorby and Niall Quiggin. There were a number of PBs from the top local athletes who ran in yesterday's London Marathon. Parish Walk champion Paul Atherton led the way with a time of 2 hours 33.58. Nikki Arthur was the fastest female runner with a time of 2 hours 55.31. Rugby and Ramsey and Douglas will meet in the Manx Cup final in a week. Ramsey's last-minute try earned them a bonus point and that place in the final. In the weekend's match, Douglas, who had already qualified for the the final put 55 past the Northern outfit, who replied with 24. Douglas had gone 12-0 up within quarter of an hour, then a penalty try, which saw Ramsey's Brandon Atchison sin bin. Well, while down to 14, Rory Nicholson pulled one back for Ramsey, and Nathan Robson's conversion made it a 5-point game at 12-7. Douglas then pulled away with tries from Ralph Clark, Ollie Corkish and Kyle Martin. Luke Hyland converted 2, and at half-time Douglas led 31-7. Sam McCord crossed twice for Douglas in the opening 4 minutes of the second half to put the result beyond any doubt.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronalds Way. Next is the 25-8 EasyJet from Gatwick, the 5-8 Loganair from London City, from Liverpool, I beg your pardon, and then the 10-9 Loganair from London City. They're all showing on time. Outbound 6 o'clock, Loganair to Liverpool, 8:05 EasyJet back to London Gatwick on the roads. The Mountain Road's closed between Ramsey Hairpin and the Bungalow till 10 o'clock tomorrow night for TT preparation work and maintenance. The road's going to close between the Bungalow and the Craig from 6 o'clock next Monday until 10 o'clock next Tuesday. Temporary lights in Braddon on Vicarage Road at the Stevenson's Way roundabout. Part of the Old Castletown Road in Port Sodrick's closed between Glen Road and the Marine Drive for carriageway repairs. Brighton Terrace is closed between Mount Bradder and Trinity Church. Some temporary lights there just by the Rosemount pub. The gas main replacement work. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road for adjacent office window replacement. Part of Switzerland Road's closed for building work till November. Temporary lights in Douglas on Summer Hill just north of Blackberry Lane Junction for gas supply disconnections. In Sulby, temporary lights on the TT course at Sulby Bridge for water main work. And electrical work at the Ballakill Ferry Road in Colby, temporary lights there. And also water main work on Ballakill Ferrick as well, phase closures. Also phase closures on the Starvey Road for water main work. Temporary lights on Shore Road, Gansey near Mount Gorn Road for patching work. And also Kinrockard Road in Andreas has got phase closures for water main work too.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. Look at also the Mountain Road matrix signs, Hilbury, Sulby, Bagarrow and Ramsey to the mountain, all showing fog on the Mountain Road. The DOI is optimistic it can resolve a land issue preventing progress on the new Balthane roundabout. In an update to information he recently provided in Keys, Infrastructure Minister Tim Crookall MHK says work to release a covenant which restricts the use of land earmarked for the junction is ongoing. That story from Sean Cowper.
The DOI agreed the terms of the sale last year, with the Attorney General's chambers continuing talks with Maloo commissioners over the covenant, although the department says progress is being made. Funding for the roundabout has previously been approved, with properties at Railway Terrace demolished in preparation for the construction. The disposal of hazardous waste relating to the construction of the roundabout has also presented a challenge, as Minister Crookall confirmed a number of options have been considered to deal with coal tar material. A lack of suitable facilities on the island, UK legislation preventing such material being disposed of in landfill, and cost implications mean it's proposed such material will be bound with cement to form a sub-base layer within the project. Further funding will be needed to deal with the coal tar present in the current roundabout, which has not yet been approved. The roundabout will connect the proposed Ballasalla bypass to the Balthane junction.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
It's hoped an art installation in a Douglas church will help inspire you to take action against climate change. Gaia, a globe measuring 6 metres in diameter, is on display at St Thomas Church till the 12th of May. Ali Lewin is Net Zero Isle of Man's head of programme delivery.
So I think it's the interconnectedness really of Earth, and the fact that we're in a climate crisis as well as a biodiversity crisis, and nature is really calling for our help. And it's kind of knowing our place on Earth, and that even though we're a tiny island, we can make a difference, and we all need to pull together to help with this gigantic issue that's facing the whole planet and affecting us all. So if it sparks some ideas and some thoughts around actions that people can take, then that's what we would really like. Some of the things they can do around that are talking about climate change, talking about biodiversity crisis, and tell people how they're feeling about it. They can be more mindful about, what they buy and consumption, because everything that people buy has an impact regardless of where it's been bought from, how it's got here, who's made it, what it's made from, what people might do with it when they're finished. We don't want it to come waste. I think people underestimate the power that they have to make a positive difference, and collective action really does pay off. There's other things they can do by like being more mindful about the ways in which they travel, using your car less, using the boat instead of the plane. All these little things add up, but talking about it is probably one of the most powerful things you can do.
The new commissioner in Antrim says he wants to make a meaningful contribution to the parish. Adam Silverstone has joined the board in an uncontested election.
I guess it's wanting to do something for the local village that you live in, contribute in some way. I don't really get involved too much in anything as yet in the village. I think when my kids attend the school here, then I'll get involved in things a little bit more. But in the meantime, I wanted to contribute in a meaningful way, and I decided that applying to the commissioners was a way to do that. I actually think that Andreas has been run by the commissioners very well, aside from a few little things like a little bit too much dog mess on the pavements, which has been a bit of an issue recently. I have zero complaints about the way things are run, just thought that I could contribute in a meaningful way, and decided that I didn't need to wait to fit the stereotype. There's been a few girls in the village who quite recently made a point of going around the whole village themselves and picking everything up. I thought it was absolutely fantastic thing to do, and also to bring it to everybody's attention. And in fairness to the commissioners, I've read the minutes recently, they have said that they would put more signage out to increase awareness, and really I think that is, from a commissioner's point of view, all you can do, as well as try to enforce legislation, which obviously is don't do as you get a fine. Obviously it's been very well documented about the Northern Civic Community site, which I wasn't too aware of prior to deciding that I wanted to do this job.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Siobhan Fletcher, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Phil Gaunt's here with Agenda, the greatest hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30, and Update returns tomorrow, Tuesday, at 5:30.
WINT